We was interrupting and we're recording again.
It's not a good question because it's a false dichotomy. The, the genes formulate structures in accordance with
There's no
environmental
economy
demand
with the
right from the
gene.
beginning of the organism's emergence. And so there's a constant interplay between the environment and genetics. But the environment isn't also just a thing that's out there that's like made out of lions and tigers and moose and buildings and the sky. It's an information field. And the
Okay.
constructivists point out rightly that partly what you're doing when you're operating in the world is interacting with this field of information and incorporating its structure into the structure of your mind and body, which is how you adapt. So you could say in some sense that you're built out of information and matter. That's a good way of thinking of it.
Yeah, information and matter is right, but it's not that. It's not literally that the information of the environment going into the information of your body. No, it's more that you see the inform. It's not that you're going literally to your body, but almost. It's more that the information of your environment, where you're already alive and born as an adult, and you are. And it's an example. You're going to an environment, to a place, an an environment, and by studying and seeing with your eyes, you're having the information not to your body but to your brain, where you're and it cannot be the information where you're in the belly of your mom because you're not in a environment. Okay, this is number one. All animal all animal are born inside a female, so it's not the environment really, changing the baby inside the belly of the female. It's more the food and the genetic inside, and the genetic. It's more about the genetic inside. So in a way, the field do not change the baby inside the belly. It's more the health, the food. Okay, this is in genetic is the adapt. How the animal adapt after they is born. Okay, then it may change or not. You know, because the genetic, the memory DNA, with time that each individual born for each generation may adapt with time a difference with time, and also because of that it may be possible also that with the adaptation to the genetic, the DNA memory example, the video of MatPat, the assassin that talk about you know DNA memory, it remain in the body, and for that each generation adapt better than the other by the memory inside the DNA. That's again, for some say it's proof, some say it's a theory. That's debatable. For another thing, genetic is more about the gene, and basically also a few genes going to go to a creature that's different, need not matching your environment anymore. What will happen is that if some creature in the past example, some creature in the past example, uh, having a different gene by time, by each generation, and those genes did not go well with the environment. It did not go well with the environment and got extended with time. So basically, yeah, an example, and sometimes they go extend because of the officer and the prey gene get better with time and them do not follow, and then they got extend. The saber-tooth tiger got extend because of the new prey that was running too fast and he did not have enough speed and stamina. So with time he got extend. Also that a couple of human beings may also killing half of his species. But basically just that. It depends which also. There's a different variation of a tiger. Because there's like the name saber-tooth tiger to reference of all the one with big T, who the one who's literally named, you know. But anyway, that's another recall because yes, that's different variation also. Uh, let's continue now with the rest of it.
And the constructivists are very interested in how you go about acquiring information and how you then transform that information into the sort of knowledge that you can apply to the world. So they're also very pragmatic, especially Piaget, because Piaget regards knowledge as like the prerequisite for adaptive action.
Oh, and by the way, the baby cannot have any information after he's born, and the baby inside the baby cannot also. The children will not have information of the field, but have information of the field through the parent. Same thing for the teenager or almost adult. And the animal kingdom, the teen or the child, not the children, but the teen, or the teen. Most animals reject the teen because they're too close to being adult, and the female rejecting them most of the time. But anyway.
So again, he's less concerned about the facts that you know about the structure of the world than he is about how it is that you modify and adapt your behavior so that you can survive in the world. So that's the first postulate. That's constructivism. And then the next postulate is that there are revolutions in this internal structures that you construct that emerge as a consequence of you acquiring new information. Sometimes that information can already be fit into a knowledge structure that you possess, but sometimes the information is so anomalous or novel that it blows out fundamental presuppositions that you've already established. It forces you to not only add some information to your repertoire of information, but to reconfigure the structure you use to represent the information. You don't like that. People don't like it when that happens. It's too dramatic and upsetting. So, which is often why revolutions in science or in any other field are first resisted. I mean, it's very complicated. The reasons people are opposed to new ideas are very complicated. There's lots of theories about why that occurs precisely, but briefly outline a good theory. There's a bunch of them, but I'll outline one. So, let's say there's already a scientific theory, and it's instantiated in the world, so people accept it. And let's say that you are a proponent of that theory. So you might say, well, that theory therefore governs your worldview, and if I threaten it, then your worldview is going to fall apart, and that's going to make you fall apart. And that's not a bad theory.
Yeah, not a bad theory, but I would disagree with it, because if you're considering an example, if you're having a religious point of view, Christianity, and you're having a theory against it to prove it's a piece of shit, and the Christian, even if they will allow them, even though they see it's not the true religious, it's not gonna, the point of view of the world will fall apart. It's more than their belief that there's nothing with the world, because he's about heaven and hell, which basically mean even if your perspective of the world change or not, if you reject Jesus to the religious, you go to hell. You're not good to heaven. So there's nothing about the world. Even Jesus said the world is from Satan. So it's difficult when you hear the word is from Satan, because when you hear that, you understand that even if the word perspective as a Christian will change, it will not change the fact that they still believe in G-Man. And we're probably thinking they will go to hell if they don't rejecting him and blah blah blah. The word is from Satan. Some translations say the word from Satan is because it is the people are from Satan, because they are corrupted. Other taking there are some descendant of him, literally. Other taking maybe it's the world was created, a part of it with with Satan. But anyway, those are different theory of Christianity. And let's see what other theory.
But here's a variant of that which is similar, but which I think is better. So I'm a professor. Let's say I have a theory. Now what I'm doing with my theory is buying my right to be a professor. So I would come to the University of Toronto as a job candidate, and I would say, here's my theory, and here's why I think the facts support it, here's what it's good for. And they'll say, okay, it looks like you know enough about what you're doing so that you can occupy this position in this dominance hierarchy. Okay, and I'm pretty happy about that, because that position in that dominance hierarchy is pretty permanent. That's one of the advantages to an academic job. It's like, once you have it, as long as you're relatively confident and relatively ethical, then you can maintain it across time. So it's a big deal to be granted that slot. And then being in that dominance hierarchy is not only a matter of what you believe, obviously. The fact that I'm in the dominance hierarchy means I get a certain salary, and that's not hypothetical. That allows me to eat, so I'm happy about that. It's not only psychological, and I can pay my housing payments with it and so on. So it protects me from the cold, it offers me something to eat, and it gives me a certain public status. And so if some other joker comes along, say they're young, and they say, well, I have a different theory, and it makes your theory look stupid, then I'm not going to be very happy about that, partly because it upsets the way that I configure my understanding of the world, and that's a drag, but I might recover from that. But it also undermines my claim. It undermines the validity of my claim to that position in the hierarchy.
Yeah, at least, of course, you admiring it, you feel like you are in a challenge mode, and you try to see what's your theory and his theory to figure out how the point in his theory is wrong and how the point in your theory is wrong, to go above your theory and his theory to go to a new ascendant level or beyond the two. That's how sometimes I see things.
And so it sort of makes me an imposter. Say the guy turns out to be right. It's like, poof.
No, because sometimes even the most correct one may have mistake.
I'm an imposter, and I no longer really have the right to occupy that position. But someone might even point that out, although it doesn't happen very often in the case of professors. It happens fairly frequently in other sorts of occupations. All of a sudden your position is made useless because somebody figured out how to automate you, and poof, you're gone. And that's hard on your worldview, but it's a lot.
No, it's not. I'm finished with that. Okay, now I will say again, and I will say again, subscribe to Mr. The Best, Jordan Patterson. This is YouTube from Etterman. Not me, but from Etterman. Yeah, because it's the name of my YouTube, Etterman. But subscribe to Jordan Patterson The Best, and subscribe to me too, eh? Anyway.